Resource for Writers podcast, where each week you get mini craft talks from creative writing teachers and working writers. Head over to resourceforwriters.com, where you can join writing groups, classes, book clubs, and many other events. We hope you like this episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Resource for Writers podcast. I'm Roxan McDonald.
And I'm Desi Lenc.
And today we're going to talk about why everyone should write a memoir and then how to start.
Where to start.
Where to start.
Yes.
So, Desi, are you currently writing a memoir?
I'm not, but I feel like I have a memoir in me. It's like somewhere down the road, I'm gonna start on it, but not yet. I know you're working on yours.
Yes. And I work with a lot of memoir writers. Like that's kind of, I work with people writing prose of all sorts. And I used to, teach poetry, but my bread and butter is memoirs.
It's your thing.
And I am obsessed with memoirs, and I am, finishing up my own manuscript. Okay. So why should everyone write a memoir?
Yes.
I believe that, so I'll just speak personally first before I say some pretty, inflammatory things. If you follow me at all, you know that I had a rough childhood, and I took on going to counseling and getting healing and improving and, not being the statistics about what having a rough childhood is like. Or what people with rough childhoods turn out to be.
Yeah.
And I, from all, like doing all the stuff, like you name the counseling therapy thing, I have done it. Right. You name the healing thing, I have done it. You name like any of it. I can say with certainty that the act of making my life into art has been the most positive transformation I've had about how I resonate with my story. And not just, so I want to say there is so much power in journal writing, in free writing, and just telling the stuff that happened. That was a huge part of it. But I'm going to say very clearly is crafting a memoir took me applying my abilities that I learned through counseling, but it forces me, and I've watched it happen, this transformation of when you assess things that happened and you're trying to create that, put them into chronology and a context, and then understanding both the narrator's yearning there, the stakes of what's happening, the character development, and understanding all the characters involved in your memoir, which then I'm not saying that you develop a absolute forgiveness and compassion for every villain in your life, but the act of, once you get to the place where you're going to go, I have to understand why people would act that way.
Right.
I'm not going to say I got to a healthy level of compassion and clarity about those people that did those bad things, as well as this like writing, rewriting, trying to get to the most authentic truth I could, liberated me.
Yes.
More than the other things that I did, more than EFT and EMDR and, cognitive behavioral therapy and all of it. Dialectical behavioral therapy.
I can see how that is, because it's like you're taking your narrative and you're making it into your own. What does it mean to you? That's what storytelling is, right? We're making meaning. So you're making meaning of your life, your experiences. And then also when you were talking about, I have to understand the characters. We're not allowed to just say, well, they're bad, they're good, they're this, they're that. No, we have to have like this well-rounded view of them and understanding of them and their humanity and all that too. So I love that you mentioned that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, I think that, of course, writing a memoir is a huge undertaking. And I actually don't think everyone should write a book length memoir. That, for me, that has been the last decade and a half of my life, just trying to get this right. Right. But jumping in and writing the big stories and practicing writing and rewriting the stories that, that we really want to tell.
Yeah.
And the stories we really don't want to tell.
Yes.
That's what I think. I think anybody who doesn't have a huge emotional, difficulty with writing in words, right? I know people that it's just that would be traumatizing, but everybody else, I think most people should try writing memoir.
Yeah, we can also do like, personal essays and stuff too, and start with that.
Yes.
Your toes in.
Yes. Yes. I also see, like, I've worked, I work with a lot of writers, and I've worked at the lifelong learning centers where it's seniors. And I worked with a lot of vets. And I did that right after, leaving my career of being a counselor, working with teens and their families. And a lot, I know we talked about this in another episode, is this like therapeutic aspect that that's unnamed really within communities of people, supporting each other to create stuff. But there is a lot, like it's been scientifically studied about people with post-traumatic stress disorder crafting stories from their experience is one of like a very effective therapy. And so in my experience working with, battle people who've been to battle, like literal war zones, that going in and more detail, slowing it down, popping out of our on the ground experience and going, what was happening? Can I go research this? Oh, wow. I didn't understand that this is what was going on. This strategic thing, getting into the body again, redoing it, envision. And then another thing that will happen within memoirs is that one writing technique is to envision the alternate ending, the alternate. What if I had walked this way instead of that way? What if she hadn't have done that? What would have happened? And that's inherent in so many different ways to process traumatic experiences, is embodying a different reality, but you're doing it on the page, and with writing, you're engaging with other parts of your brain. So it's not just, I'm going to go in and tell somebody how awful it was. Because that's what a lot of people have experienced therapy and is like, okay, I'm going to go in and sit in a room and cry and tell somebody how bad it was. And then they're going to tell me, tell yourself you're lovable, or, or whatever. Yeah. And it's not the same as that, which I'm not putting that down. I needed years and years of just somebody witnessing me.
Isn't there a type of therapy too, where you kind of like go back to that moment and then you're like speaking to the person that hurt you, or that's kind of similar to like changing the narrative and asking, what if I had said no? What if I had stood up for myself?
Yes, that's exactly it. And that's in first person narratives, it's called reflective narrator. And it's a whole class I teach on addressing, getting this aspect of the memoir in there, which is philosophizing, saying a lot of kids who experience, like, this is my thing. I'll say, I read later, there's a study about kids who experienced it, that they often do this. And then now I look back on myself and go, oh, no wonder I stole that much, blah, 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 because I was looking for an adrenaline rush, because that is actually comforting to somebody with a brain that was formed in trauma. That pulling back, expert kind of research stuff, that questioning what could have been different, what would have happened if my mom, like in one chapter of my memoir, I do the whole thing. I'm like, the night my mom meets this one stepdad, and what if she had chosen another cowboy on that dance floor? And I go, and writing that was one of, like, it shifted my experience of the story so much.
Yeah.
So,
and it's dropping back in with the PTSD, it's dropping back into your body and really like trying to understand what you were going through. And like you said, slowing it down, because often when we're in those situations, everything's going a million miles an hour and we're not really checking in, you know, grounding in. And so writing can do that, take you back and do that. So did you, was it like rough for you to write a memoir? Was it like did you have moments where you just like started crying, or was it more just like you felt relief, or both?
Yeah, of course I cried. No tears for the writer, no tears for the reader. No laughter for the writer, no laughter for the reader. I think that's Neil Gaiman maybe said that, or Mark Twain, who knows? Some white dude said it. Some dude writer said it. Yeah, it was difficult. And I always taught, like when I'm working with a writer, I'm always saying, take care of yourself as a human being first. Sometimes you write something and you put it in a file and you let it rest for a while because it's too much. And understanding, and that is one of the blessings of writing a memoir too, is learning how to check in and go, can I do this right now? This seems a little too intense because I got to go to work. I can't jump headfirst into this. But you write what you can, you put it aside, you go to another thing, you write what you can. So yes, it was difficult, and it wasn't as difficult as living through it. I already did that. That's like my thing. Anytime stuff I'm like, oh, this hurts too bad, I'm like, I lived through it.
Yes.
Nothing's as bad as living through it. So I can handle it. Right. So, and I getting that experience over and over of going, I can go back, I can address this. And I lived through it already. And I would just soothe myself as I wrote. Most of the time, in my experience and with the people I work with, it's the fear of starting the story more than being in it. Once people are in it, writing out their story, it's not that difficult. It actually feels like it's a wonderful experience of going, I am telling my psyche that this matters enough for me to take unadulterated time. The act of writing, it's almost impossible to write and do a whole bunch of other stuff at the same time. Right?
You're in it.
As writers, we usually aren't watching TV and trying to actually write something. We're not walking and writing, talking on the phone and writing. So the act of writing, you're sitting there and you're creating a space. That's the reason why I'm like writing and mindfulness. That's why we teach those workshops, and why I consistently, with any workshops I teach, even if it's not a writing and mindfulness, I do a mindfulness practice throughout, because that it is an act of mindfulness. Writing is. And I think I just sounded like Yoda there.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in like a trance, but I guess that could kind of be a form of mindfulness too.
Absolutely. I mean, I only practice meditation because I want that trance every once in a while.
Yes, to get into that good feeling. So you're saying a lot of people, their fear is starting because of what might come up.
Yes.
In the process. Okay.
And then once they're in it, they're not afraid anymore.
Yes. So you think that everyone can write?
Yes. And I want to shift, because I think everyone can write and has a story to tell, and everyone should at least write short story memoirs. Like if you're, just try it. I have been focusing on people with like big trauma, and I'm going to shift to people who think, I didn't have that much bad stuff happen to me, and I don't really have a story to tell. And
let's get into it.
Yeah. So some of the best memoirs I've ever read were from people that didn't have a dramatic experience, like they got into growing orchids and then they were transformed by this experience in some way, or they learned to climb a mountain, or those are like, the climbing a mountain maybe even more dramatic. There are memoirs about having a police officer parent, and nothing truly intense happened, but they just delve into this experience. So it is so powerful to think, I don't have my story isn't interesting. And then when you sit down and you start doing the things I'm going to recommend after we get through this, and just start mining your life for stories and details and the sensuality of life.
Yes.
It actually shifts for the people who think I didn't have it rough, so therefore I don't have a story. And then it shifts and it like gets you to that exquisite beauty kind of thing where you go back to exquisite beauty. Like I'm thinking of the memoir, An American Childhood. It's Annie Dillard. Okay. Nothing that bad. I don't remember anything that bad happening in that story. Like her dad builds a boat, takes it down a river. She lives in a neighborhood in Pittsburgh. That's all like this. It is a gorgeous memoir. It is not dramatic. It is simply her making meaning out of a quintessential to her American childhood. Mm-hmm. And the beauty in that, and then the transformation that happens when you lean in and you, like Anais Nin said, the beauty of writing is you taste life twice.
Yes.
And so that going back and not just remembering or even writing down what happened, but jumping in and tasting it again, going back. And then the other part is making meaning, understanding what had to change for me to become who I am, and what happened when I became a swing dancer, right? I have a memoir about like kidnapping and, trauma and all that stuff. I also have a whole story, a whole memoir I could write just about becoming a swing dancer.
Yeah.
And what that did, how I had to change, the culture, all of that. Nothing horrible happened in swing dancing.
And it's kind of like romanticizing your life too, into the different parts of who you are, where you've been.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So then people ask me, so I get this thing all the time. How do you do it? Or people come up to me and go, I got a story. Let me tell you my story. And then you can write the memoir for me. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. That's a ghostwriting.
Not for you.
Well, it'd be too much.
Yeah.
if I had to pay somebody to go through what I'm doing to try to finish no.
Yeah.
But then people go, how do you start? Where do you begin when you start writing a memoir? So I'm going to tell you.
Start.
Write down a chronological list of events. That's it. Start there. Write down. Either I was born, or I was conceived, or my parents were born, or my parents were conceived, or my grandparents came here, my grandparents did this. Wherever your instinct to start this chronological list of events, start there. And put dates, put as much, just this happened. We moved from this town to this town. We moved this house to this house. Write the chronological list of events. Number one. And then you have hopefully, if you're above the age of 15, you have a pretty long list of writing prompts created specifically for you. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Just any event that you can think about, any event. If you said, I want to know a chronological list of events in your life, and you write them down, you have a list of writing prompts. And then you can go in and either pick the hottest one, the one that's like aching for you to tell, or sometimes go in and go, I am going to pick the most banal event, right? Nothing happened. And I'm going to write 4 pages about the day I drank a glass of water and looked out the window. As nothing, really. Play around with it. Just start writing. And then the other thing I would say is listen to this podcast, go from the beginning where we talk about slowing down and where to make scenes and all of that stuff. Jump into the sensual details. Sensual meaning senses. I'm not saying you have to write erotica, like the senses, the sensuality, the energy, the taste, the sound, the smell. Write into that. Then look for the those stories, like I would look at that chronological list of events and circle the ones that you were like, if I was to write a book, I would want all of these ones to definitely be included, and then put them together and then describe them in a paragraph. So then you have that together, and then ask yourself, what do they all have in common besides that I lived this? Mm-hmm. What do they have in common? Well, they usually reveal some sort of growth, change, transformation. And then once you get that, you've got a memoir, right? You've got this transformation, and then you start putting those together. If it's just one, you just have one that you really want to tell, then craft it as a short story. And I just want to say too, we haven't done something on short stories. Short stories do not mean that they're only 5 pages long. All these people come to me and they're like, well, I want it to remain a short story, and now it's 8-9 pages. And I'm like, a short story is simply shorter than a novel or shorter than a novella. So under 100 pages is still a short story-ish. People are going to argue, but 50 pages is a short story. So don't worry about that. So, but just write everything you know, everything you think, every sense you could think of, write. Just get words on the page and then go back in and write some more. Another thing you can do is get out pictures and just describe the pictures. No story in mind, just here's a picture. My Uncle Dale and Jim Bob are sitting on the couch, my grandma's house. I know that outside of the frame of this picture, my grandma's sitting in a recliner, smoking and eating Fritos. I can smell it now. I can hear my grandpa in the yard, all of it. Anything that gets spurred from photos. Even if you had a practice of you just take out photos from your life and you just go, I'm going to write 3 pages, randomly pick a photo. You're writing.
And everything will come to you, the sensory and the...
Yes.
Get
a whole bunch of messy writing out on the page. And that's how you start to write a memoir.
Yes. Then you got yourself the beginnings of a memoir.
Yes. And then, and then continue listening to this. And if you want to come to a writer's group, or you want to get coaching, or you want to take, I will have a workshop later about all these other ways of like structuring a memoir, if you want to write a book length one and all that. But doing those things gives you an infinite amount of writing prompts and work that you can do to be moving forward on writing a memoir.
Yes. And like with other types of writing too, it comes to you the more that you write.
Yes.
It all comes together.
Yes. I mean, I kind of was wanting to say like, well, this kind of goes for a fiction too. You just write a chronological list of events that you made up, and then you jump in and you start writing, and you write about all the characters and all the places and all the senses, and then you expand.
And then later you can contract it into a story.
Yes. And the other thing is, if you, sitting down and doing that by yourself is too much, then go to a workshop, a generative writing workshop where, people are all sitting around together, and then they read their pieces aloud, and then you get to hear other people be brilliant, and also witnessing as people like bravely write first drafts, and you hear the first drafts, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have to write perfectly the first round. I can just have a kernel of meaning. That's terrific. I love generative writing workshops. I love them.
Yes.
Because I do really well in that, where people are all sitting together, writing and then reading aloud.
I know. I've seen you in book club, and you're just like in the zone, like, and I'm always like, okay, everyone, we're returning now. And you're still like, I got to get this in.
Yeah. Cause I get inspired by the collective thing. We're all doing this together. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just sweet. So the other, you kind of just lightly plugged your book club. The book club has we have a generative writing part. There's writing prompts every week ish.
And a lot of the stories too, I'll ask like, you know, this writer is talking about this experience. Did you have that experience growing up? You know, and so then we kind of go into our own stories from there. But I was also thinking too, like another way that you can probably get some stories down for your memoir is like talking to family members, like calling them up and being like, you know, I remember we lived in that old house. What happened to that house? And just see what they say. And, you know, that house was on this street. And remember there was a, you know, I had like a Jimmy's up the street from my house that had like fried catfish and like, you know, like people just start talking about things and you get those details in that material, you know?
Yes. I love that. I want to put one little caveat on it is write your version of the story first.
Love that. Yes.
So that you are not, because what will happen a lot is people will say, they'll have it and then they'll go, oh, I remember it differently, which you will. Everyone will. Everyone remembers it differently. So write your version first and then call, and don't tell them your version. You can prod them to be like, remember the catfish? You know, remember this? Do you remember? What do you remember about that? But don't get into it with people trying to get them to agree on reality with you. Because
and don't get discouraged from that either. If someone says that's not, you know. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And then you write down their version too. Cause like in my book, a lot of my story is that I was the youngest and my brothers held a lot of those stories for me and created them. And then I went back and asked them. And so that's part of it too. Then you weave that in too. Well, my brother doesn't remember it like that. My brother told me later that blah, blah, blah. And that is like so rife, but they also family members or people that were there will just jar memories. Like that's, such great advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I think I need to just do this whenever I need like a free write. I got to do this.
I say write the list now, right? Everyone go write your chronological list of events.
Yeah.
I'm leaning down and getting in the microphone.
So they know. Yeah. You mean
I wish I could do that echo thing. Like write the list before you're ready to write it. Like write the story so that you're not sitting down and then you don't have anything to write about. And then you're trying to write the list and then you stop because you're like, you know, well, I'm not even really writing yet. I'm writing a list. So write the list now
out there
and then make a date with yourself. Go take yourself to an outdoor cafe and have your coffee and then spend an hour writing your memoirs.
Yes. And everyone can do it.
Yes. Everyone can do it. I also think sometimes people will think, you know, I'm not literary. I don't, or like people will say, they don't like that English is their second language, but they want to write in English. And I'm telling you, I have been in so many workshops and classes with people who felt like like I'm putting quotes, their English wasn't good enough. And they wrote the most impactful, beautiful, like mind-blowing good memoir pieces or fiction, but mostly it was memoir. And that it's the play of when like voice comes through so much. If you feel like you're not well educated or you don't know grammar, I teach writing. I have a master's degree. Grammar is the math of writing. I don't like it. Don't ask me to name, you know, a grammar rule or tell you how to use a comma. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the less, I don't know. I don't want to say that, but I will just tell you that you don't need to know grammar. You don't need to be perfect at whatever language you're speaking in. Just write and be willing to make those wild, you know, juicy mistakes, and it will be your strength.
And even writing in like, you know, your own voice, that there's beauty in that. I was thinking of Brenda Ulen's If You Want to Write, and she reads different students writing, and she's like, here's someone that hasn't gone to college, and you know, she's like a stay-at-home mom, but yet her writing is so beautiful because she gets to the heart of the matter. She's to the point. And like, I'm like, that's really cool to, you know, how she compares that too. Like your voice is good enough. Like don't let that stop you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Read If You Want to Write. I know we've talked about that on here before, but I love that. Okay. I think that's all I have to say. Everyone should write a memoir. Start now. You have all the tools. You're not allowed to say you don't know how to write a memoir because an expert just told you. I have a degree.
So what do you got going on? What do we got going on over at Resource for Writers right now? We got the weekly feedback groups.
Yes. And we're doing registrations all the time. So give us your name, tell us you're interested. We'll keep you posted. We maybe will be starting an extra one. And so tell us, give us, if you, this is what I want to say too. I am not great at synthesizing a whole bunch of information. I'm out on the internet. I get tons of direct messages, emails, but if you email our website and tell Desi, because Desi's responsible or organized, you're organized.
Yeah, I manage the wait list. Yeah.
Yes. And if you even write in there and say, if you ever have a workshop or a feedback group that meets at 6:00 on Thursdays, tell us.
Yes,
tell us
please.
what you want, because
enough people
will do it. So yeah, reach out. And then sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter it's actually kind of getting good. We have
we share like opportunities, we share discounts on products, and then it's also like this community over there. Like we share other people's writing, their publishing, and what they're up to. Like it's a great community space too.
Yeah, and we've partnered with some of my friends. So we have Emily Cerniker, who runs a whole poetry collective with lots of resources. We have Script Anatomy on there. So this is if you're interested in screenwriting. Every month we have what they're doing. We have Ellen Bass, who she's giving us info about her classes that are totally accessible now. I'm like, anybody who's wanted to study with one of the best poets of our time, right now is the time, because you can study with her online. So that she's in there. So it's good. So sign up for the newsletter. And then also, if you're interested in just getting all of the groundwork for what I feel like I have to give about just here's ways to make it so you become a better you have a kinder, more productive relationship with your creativity, as well as developing your craft of writing. There's the Basics and Beyond class package. So it goes through 5 classes about all the things that I think writers should know, so that they are not, they're not going alone. And then also there's an advanced class about how to conceptualize your own work. And those are all recorded. They're not expensive. If you sign up for the newsletter, we have a discount coming out.
A little discount.
So, and then what's going on with you, Desi? As
always, I have the book club going on. If you want to sign up for that, it's great for writers, or if you don't consider yourself a writer, that's fine, and we're reading some great books over there. We have the time that we're recording this, we have Halloween coming up. So I'm excited for that season. And you can sign up for that over at resourceforwriters.com.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Go write your memoir.
Yes.
And then tell us how you do.
Yes. All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.